And we're just happy to have you here, and especially tonight. It's wonderful to see real people back at the museum in the program room. I'm so excited. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker for the evening, Fairport native, many of you know him, author of 20 books about local history. Please help us welcome Don Schilling.
Hi. I feel like I was on TV. I want you to know that before we began, I did allow Vicki a chance to see the program. And you know what she did? She rated it. She gave me a grade. C+. Okay. Whoops. Okay. Am I still on? Okay. Well, this is a copy of the most recent histogram, Potter Memorial Society. And I was rather taken with that. Now, do we have somebody in this crowd of people that knows something about history named Bill Poray? Is he here? Would he come forward, please?
I knew I should have stayed home and cut the grass.
No, I'd like to make a brief commentary on Fairport's and Perinton's competent historian, Bill Poray. Yes. My compliments to Bill and his critical comments on Fairport's crowd of colorful community characters. Further, his carefully crafted collection of tales concerning our citizens' historical contributions and credible creations are commendable. Perhaps we could collaborate on some common historical columns. Now, because you've done such a wonderful job with this is your special Potter Memorial.
Creative.
Okay, well, somebody in the room said that they probably weren't going to be on this program. And I said, well, no, maybe you will be. So let's take a look at the first slide. Ta-da! 7 Cs of Fairport. Charlotte Clapp, of course, is at the top. Carla Musto. Crystal Van Zandt. Now, some of you don't remember these people. Claire Stewart. Thomas Coffey. Conking and Calabrese. Charlie Emler. Claude Emery. Jimmy Cotter. Carlton D. Wolf. Charlie French. And, of course, our former mayor. That's right. Okay. How about that? Doesn't he look happy? Okay, so the next slide begins with another Fairportian. Carl Peters, another Fairport's colorful community characters. I think you recognize that little banner that's upstairs. Okay, and we can move ahead and find the first one, of course, is the Erie Canal. Now, I, as a native, always loved the Erie Canal. Delbert Stevens and I would hear a whistle when the boats got about as far as the entrance to Fairport over the old original bridge that came in Fairport Road. We had a little name for that place, which I can't remember, but I knew somebody in the audience would know that. Fulham Town. So let's take a look. And the Erie Canal created Fairport's north and south side, which made it kind of unique. I don't know that all the communities have a north and south side, but we sure do. And the next slide shows something very interesting. Fairport, if you want to get to Fairport, you got to go across the bridge. You want to get out of Fairport, you got to go across the bridge. Because they found out that if they continued to go in the direction that we're headed, then they had to go through the Arundecoit Valley, which was the old channel for the ancient Genesee River. And they'd have to lock down and lock up again towards East Rochester. But if they went all the way over to Pittsford, they could avoid all of that. Okay, so the next slide shows a little book that I put together that has Fairport in it. And it tells all about this. It's called The Towpath Tale, and this is what it looks like. Okay, so enough advertising. The lift bridge. Now, the interesting thing about this is when you look at this, there's a little house up here. Here's the bridge. This is the road that got lifted. Now, on the next slide, how did this guy get up there to lift the bridge up? I often wondered about that because he had to get up there because he's the one who runs the mechanism that lifts the bridge. It's fascinating. Okay, so now we have another one of Fairport's bridges is in 1912. We're going to widen the canal a little bit. This building is going to come out. You can see part of it. And in the next slide, you see the new bridge. Here it is. Crowds clamber over the Erie Canal on the famous bridge, canoeists paddling below. You can see it here. And notice here that it was in 1912 and 1914 that the Kerbau Company of Philadelphia got $75,000 to put in 2-horsepower electric motors, weights and cables, and if it should fail, it says, don't worry, the power failed. It could be raised by 4 men, very strong men, even though it weighs 375 tons. And it was in Ripley's at least 16 times. Okay, so this is a picture that you might have seen in the newspaper. This shows us under construction forever. Yeah. So you can see it. All right, move on. And now, canal side condominiums. I could not believe that when I saw these condominiums being built on the side of the canal. In Fairport, I said, my God, it's not Rochester. It's not Philadelphia. It's not even East Rochester. No, and so here they are. Luxury condos open along Fairport's canal. Very, very nice. Not just 1 level or 2 levels, but 3 levels high. Go ahead, next slide. Inside, you can see, let's see, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 stories high. And you can see that it's very nice accommodations, and people have moved in. I don't think there's any empty spots there. I can't afford it myself, but it's very nice. And if we move on, we see what it looks like inside. They have a nice view of the canal, especially during the time that it's open. It doesn't look like too much in the wintertime. And you can see what it looks like over there. Okay, so let's move on. Now, another C in Fairport is the Colonial Bell. Colonial Bell made its way into Fairport for many, many years, but is now it's outside of the city of Rochester. It's over in, I don't know where it is, but it's not in Fairport anymore. But it does take people out of Fairport. What is it? Oh, okay, it's not Bursted Fairport. Maybe I should say that. Okay, next slide. And here it is, the Colonial Bell. And look at when Fairport has a festival, they really have a festival. It's really great. And you can see the number of vessels that are tied up along the canal. And charters, the sea. Okay, go ahead. Yep, chemicals. Now, there was a time in our nation's history when patent medicine was really big. And I'll tell you this, Fairport was really big too in chemicals. Let's take a look at that. First of all, I was in Canandaigua, and I was in a little hotel on Salt Street, whatever it is, and I saw this can. It cost me $16. Who's going to spend $16 on a tin can? But I thought it was kind of nice because it said Monroe County Chemical Company on it. And then I looked at it, and on the next slide, you can see that it has directions in English and directions in Deutsch, in German. What? Let's have another picture. There it is. See this? Directions all in German on that can. When the Monroe County chemical company was in business. In the 1880s, there was a huge German population in Rochester, and there might have been a few people who spoke German out here, I don't know. But enough so that the can of baking powder, whatever, was in German. I thought that was kind of different. Okay, next slide. Now, if you have chickens, and the chickens have a problem, there's two friends of the great American hen. One is the Jiffy Louse Killer, and the other is Dr. Ware's poultry powder. And you can see, here's good old Dr. Ware. And he has famous veterinary medicines, cow health, good for cow health, Jiffy Louse Killer, and other fast-selling specialties. Okay, so did he do anything else? I think so. Here are his billheads, 1886 and 1889. And guess what? Not only can you get Ware's Heave Cure, if you got heaves, condition powders, Argerol, poultry powder, Gilbert's cough balsam, and Gilbert's cholera inflatum cure, and then tea. So it really, it's good. Now, we had another entrepreneur in Rochester, or in Fairport, that was really very, very prominent. He became a mayor here in Rochester, in Fairport. And of course, he is George C. Taylor. His building still stands, as you know, just on the north side of the tracks. Well, the tracks aren't there anymore, but the north side. Taylor's Oil of Life. Some time ago, I ran across a few things that he made, and I'd like to share those with you today. Okay? So let's see what he made there. Okay, here we are. Tyco, cough syrup. Tyco, here's glycerin, ginger, machine oil, and good old Taylor oil liniment for many uses. How about that? And notice that later on in the 20s, they got caps, but in the early ones, it was all with corks. Is that the only thing he made? No. You want to see what else? Okay, here we go. Here it is. Vanilla, witch hazel, soda mint tablets. I could use those. Perfume. Fancy little perfume bottle. And over there's sweet oil. Now, that's to be taken externally. Don't try to drink it. That's what it says. And so, proprietary medicines and extracts, sundry drugs, right here in Fairport. So, this is kind of neat to have these things to remember Fairport by. And guess what? Most of these, 90% of this stuff is here in this museum. Thanks to Vicki. She twisted my arm so I could give them to her. Okay, next slide. Now we had another gentleman, and his name is Mr. Newman. You see, Mr. Newman had his own extracts, pure gold. He thought if you use the term pure gold, it must be good, because gold is good, so this will be good. Pure gold extract of lemon. This is a sign that had a little standard in the back of it to put in the store window. Big, it's a fairly big sign. But it talked about the pure food baking powder. Let's see what else he had. Here it is, New York baking powder. Now, if it's New York, it's got to be good. Pure and nutritious, full weight, Newman and Howe. Here's his building that he had over on the north side, Newman's Pure Gold Baking Powder and Spices, and a billhead of 1888 that shows a sale. They drawn on you, whatever it is, but just to show that new process, New York baking powder was right here. And he was the gentleman who sold his mill to some young men, Robert Timothy French, and his son George, and Uncle Palmer. And they came up here from Brooklyn, and they established themselves. You're going to gotta be. It's okay. Okay, go ahead to the next one. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so they got up here, and they decided that they would buy out this pure gold. You like that pure gold idea. I mean, look at the beautiful maiden. She's got pure gold right here. It says so. Baking powder, Fairport, New York. Did you know that pure gold baking powder gives health and also gives wealth? I didn't know that. Well, that was good. Okay, so the French people came up here. Now, inside of a mill, there's all this fine powder as a result of the grinding and so on, and that little spark can set the whole thing off. Okay, this is exactly what happened. And you can see ruins of the RT French fire here in Fairport. That's a rare picture. I think this is, that was Mr. French. Okay, so, no, okay. I think that was Mr. French up there. Okay, next slide. Pure Gold, so they had captured that name, Pure Gold, for their products. So now they're coffee importers and roasters. They have moved up to Brown's Race into a building which is solid stone built along the canal, the mill canal. Mustard, manufactured from seed, teas, baking powder. And look at this. Now, I find this fascinating. They came out with something called French's Pure Gold Jelly Powder. Now, the jelly powder was just like you see in a box of Jell-O. This is the original Jell-O. Then it came in 10 different flavors. Look at lemon, orange, raspberry, grapefruit, pineapple, strawberry, vanilla, calf foot, cherry, and chocolate. Okay, now what is this is finely powdered form. That's what you get when you open up the Jell-O box. And all you do is the same thing. You mix it up a little bit, and you have, and oh, by the way, 10 cents a package. So here, if the guy had ever made a fortune, he could have made a fortune on that alone. But I guess that just came and went. All right, next slide. Okay, now we all know about the DeLands. DeLands had a great impact. We have DeLand Park A and Park B. They made saleratus, and saleratus was what helped to make baking, like baking powder, makes baking soda, make your product rise. And they came in beautiful ads that you can see. You cannot see baby Lou, but hold onto the light and see, and I'll see you, peekaboo. All right, okay. And there, of course, is Daniel Brown DeLand, as he looked with the great beard that he had. Next slide. Okay, now, right along the canal was this great operation. The chemical business is here, and a gentleman named Parse came up, and we have the model upstairs of this rather interesting looking crane that allowed barrels of saleratus to be loaded onto canal freight boats. Fascinating. Okay, next slide. It came with very fascinating advertising. It's called Cap Sheaf. Cap Sheaf soda in the red packages and Cap Sheaf in the blue books. They also came with cookbooks. Established 1852. And that was absolutely amazing. Okay, and next, here, of course, a sign on the north side of the canal bridge, the DeLand Chemical Company, site of saleratus works, and people looked at that and said, what the heck is saleratus? 1852 by the DeLand family. Sold internationally, helped develop Fairport. Okay. Now, how about another C, Certo. I understand that maybe the origin of that word came from the fact that it was sure to make jelly gel. I'm not sure. But anyway, Certo, and the next slide, shows its originator, Robert Douglas. Now, for years, Robert Douglas was churning out vinegar, squishing the apples, taking the pulp, pomace, dumping it along in big piles along the Erie Canal. People from Rochester all around came around and got those beautiful worms. Those worms that lived in that pumice pile were so good they wouldn't drown when you put them in the water. It was great. They were selling for a penny apiece. Okay, and then he discovered something really unusual. He discovered that this stuff that he was throwing away contained an enzyme called pectin that made jelly gel. It was a marvelous discovery. So as it says here, process to extract and concentrate pectin from the apples, the gelling of syrups, smooth semi-solid consistency. Certo was distributed commercially to manufacturers and jellies and jams all over America, really. And it was really great. Hey, look what this did. The nice people in Perinton Historical Society made a whole nice story of his life. And I thank you. Did you see that? Yeah. Now, Vicki said, be sure you include that. I said, okay. Okay. So, just to say this, that each kind of jelly contains a different amount of this Certo to make a jelly gel. Gooseberries, you got to use a whole bottle. But on others, you don't have to use so much. So how does the housewife know this? Well, we'll have a little package, or a little recipe book that will come with a bottle. Well, how are you going to put that on? We're going to put an indentation in the bottle. And we're going to put that little booklet in there, and then we're going to wrap the wrapper around it. So when you see an original Certo bottle, a lot of them have that little indentation that held, and the next slide. Okay, here's the fruit company when they made the vinegar. Later on, it became the packing company over here that you see. And the next slide will show what the bottle looked like. And this is, of course, what the recipe looked like, the handbook that was inside behind that label. I would thought that was kind of a revelation in a way to promote a product. And so Certo concentrated fruit pectin, good stuff. It's still available today. As a matter of fact, a company came along in the late 1920s, 29, and General Foods, and they bought him out. Now, this has nothing to do with this, but I think I ought to tell you. The Carnegie man came to Fairport, said that Andrew Carnegie wanted to build a library here. They met upstairs in our town hall, which was above the fire department at the time, and they had a discussion with the Carnegie man. The Carnegie man said, where would you like your new library to be built? Half the population said, oh darn, no, I didn't say anything. Half the population said, no, it's going to be on the north side because we really need it. And the other people said, no, it should be on the south side because we're the larger part of the population. The Carnegie man said, look, I'm coming back at 7 o'clock the next day. I want to know where to put the library. So he came out. People met, and he said, all right, ladies and gentlemen, where would you like it? Oh, we want it on the north side. No, we want it on the south side. He went to the door and closed it and never came back. Now, that was such a shock to a lot of people that this gentleman that owned Certo left a lot of his stock to Fairport to build a library. Unfortunately, 1920 turned into the 1930s. And so you know it was a while before we got a library. But he did leave money, and eventually the stock got back to where it was worth something. But that's the story of the Carnegie man. Okay, next slide. Certo. See, sure to gel. Copyright 1921. And they were doing really great business then. Okay, next slide. Canning. Canning was a big deal here. You had to put your product into a metal can. And you had to seal it up. There's no problem getting the stuff in, but there's a little problem with sealing it up. Let's take a look at that. Okay. First of all, let's start with cobs. Here's George Cobb himself. Sifted peas. I always like sifted peas. I don't like the ones that aren't sifted. Fruits and syrup, jams, string beans. They're the best kind. Sweet corn, selected tomatoes. Then there are tomatoes we don't select. But all of those things were done by Cobb's Preserving Company. If he hasn't had them in stock, he knows where he can get them. Well, now there's a little ad. Okay, next. So, of course, this is the plant itself as it was located right along the banks of the Erie Canal. And the next slide shows the company as it was. Sanitary cans sealed without solder or acid. Well, we're going to find out about that. Canned goods and here, of course, are some of the hundreds of employees that he had over the years. Don't they look happy? One of the things I found out about most of the pictures of the people up until the 1930s, and maybe up until the 1940s, is almost everybody wore a hat. And you'll see even in this particular picture, a lot of guys got their hats on. Okay, next slide. Okay. Now, the railroad is here. Canal is over here. And up over here on the other side is the Cobb's Preserving Company, 1910. That was the picture that was taken. Next. And of course, this is an original label showing that the Preserving Company was not only in Fairport, but was also in Canandaigua. But the problem is, get all that food and all those string beans and stuff into a can. And it doesn't show it? And that was it. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, well, I'll tell you what happened. They had something called a cap hole can. The center of the can, the size of a $50. It was on my other slide. I don't know what happened to it here. The size of a $50. And the ladies would cut things up, the string beans or the peaches or whatever, put it in there, put it in a little water with it, and then a man would come along and seal it with solder a cap on the top. And then they would put it in boiling water. Well, guess what? If there's a little air in there, then sometimes the contents would begin to ferment. And when they ferment, they took up more space. And blooey, sometimes the whole tomato can would explode on the shelf. So it was Mr. Englet who figured out a way, or Edger, whatever, something like that his name was, that if you crimped the top all the way around it, that would take the place of having to put cap hole cans in. So that was a great thing. I must have jumped over something. Go ahead. So we get to carpenters. And I discovered on this old map that we had the planing mills and lumber yards at Simmons and Green, McAuliffe up here, and then over here was the planing mill that was run by Clarence C. Moore and the Dobbin Lumber Yard. And those people were carpenters that did make door frames and shutters and that kind of thing. So we did have some carpenters here in Fairport at one time. Next. Oh, Sanitary Can Company. Okay. Let's see how that happened. Next slide. Oh, there it is. I knew it was here someplace. Okay, there it is. Hole and cap. So you see this, about the size of this dollar, put that in there. A metal cap was soldered to close the hole. I knew it was someplace. I don't know how those carpenters got it. Okay, next slide. So you can see then, a new way to do this is to seal this up around. Pinch this top right on there. So you don't need to have any big hole in the can. That was a great breakthrough. And it happened where? Fairport, New York. This is where it was all invented. Okay. So look at this. For food products, bottom like the top. There it is. Sealed without solder or acid. The can without the cap hole. Sanitary Can Company, Factory, Fairport, New York. How about that? Boy. And guess what we can put in there now? The season of 1904, pineapples, strawberries, cherries, blackberry, gooseberries, peaches, apricots, rhubarb, I wouldn't put asparagus in the can, but I guess you apparently did. Rhubarb, corn, lobster, yes, soups, turkey, you name it. So our cans sold in the following states. 11 states, in addition, the Bahamas and Puerto Rico. Wow. We really got around, didn't we? Okay. And of course, here is the Sanitary Can Company, as you've seen in the past. Published by Mail Printing House, Fairport. Our own Fairport printing house made these postcards up. And you can see the boxcars being filled. And another, of course, a picture of it, too. Amazing. What was neat was that it was so close to the New York Central Railroad tracks, you could just have a siding. It was perfect. Okay, next. Sanitary cans made in Fairport, known all over the world. They're free of solder and other injurious substances. Does that not speak well of Fairport product? Well, yeah, I guess so. Did you believe it does? And what is why we should ask for and insist on having foods packed in sanitary cans. I always like that in sanitary cans myself. Okay. Patriotic employment. Now, this is World War I. Patriotic employment. those wishing employment in industries essential to the government. I didn't know that canning was essential, but apparently it was. Good opening for men, boys, women, various classes to work in suit hall. Good wages, opportunity to work, whatever. And day work with a 10% bonus. Wow, not too bad. Maybe I'll go to work for them. Anyway, that was the kind of ad we saw during the war. Now, how about the American Can Company that came along and bought them out? Here it is in the old facilities, with some new facilities built, this new 3-story building that you see here. And moving along, here is a rather rare picture of the Canco can delivery right here. See, it says Canco on here. Canco truck on Fairport's lift bridge in the 1950s. And that was one way, besides using the railroad, to deliver the cans.
Notice the old planks in the bridge?
Oh, yeah. That's right. Okay, well, let's go back. Okay, one of the very first things, they built a whole new plant just for the enameling. Great big brand new chimney to take off the fumes and so on. And one of the first things they did for the Genesee Brewing Company was to come out with these enameled cans that you see here. Now, of course, it'll be wrapped around, and this, of course, is at the end. It's before it's been wrapped together. But that was one of the products they made here. And I thought that was very appropriate because I like that sort of stuff. Okay, go ahead. Now, unless you forget that. Now, apparently, the story goes, Crosman had nothing to do with the people who sold the seeds, the Crosman Seed Company. But one of their employees, with some money, invested in this air rifle. And the guy adopted the name, Crosman. Why he didn't use his own name, I'm not sure. But that's beside the point. So, as you can see, there's two kinds of weapons being used. One, of course, is the pellet gun, no noise, no cleaning, or the pellet pistol. The world's largest producer of pellet gun rifles and pistols, right here in Fairport, New York. Okay? And where were they located? Right along the canal. And where was this? Cobb's Canning Company. They moved right in there. Here's the canal, and there they are. This, Turk Hill Road, going up the hill. Okay, all right, so if you ever wondered what the lunchroom looked like, this is what the lunchroom looked like in the old Crosman Company building. And it was also the lunchroom, I guess, when Cobb's canning factory was there. See the wooden beams and that kind of thing there? It's kind of an unusual picture. Okay, so now let's go to something a little more pious. Talk about the many churches in Fairport. As you can see here, in the early 1800s, the first churches to be built within the village was the Congregational Society in 1832, Universalist Society in 1834, Baptists in 1842. The Free Will Baptists came a little bit later in 1848. The Catholics in 1856. The Methodists didn't get here until the late 1800s. The Lutherans, 1921. And then finally, the Episcopalians made it by 1944. Well, let's take a look at those churches. First one was the Church of the Assumption, built in 1883. Next one was good old First Baptist Church, 1907, built in 1976 for $35,000. And the DeLands paid some money for that. Now, I know for a fact that there's not another community outside of the city of Rochester that has a better church steeple than ours, right here in Fairport. I certainly don't have any higher one than that. Somebody said it's leaning a little bit. Now, I'm not sure. But if I were as old as that is, I would be leaning a little bit too. Okay, yearbook, 1950. Okay, another one, the Free and the Remus Baptist churches, the way it looked in 1913 and the way it looked in 1928. They got a new roof by 1928. Okay, and the Fairport Congregational Church. And you see it. It was the first Congregational church. 1824 to 1972, they were having a special program for this particular time. Okay, next. I want to see evangelical, but this is the evangel church that you see here. And that, of course, is on East Church Street. Next is the Bethlehem Lutheran Church. And they took down Mrs. McCartney's house. Her house was right next to it, right here. It had slate sidewalks. And if you were ever on roller skates and went across slate, that was great. But it was a wonderful old home. And then, of course, they expanded it greatly. And it's the much larger church today. And the congregation is much larger than it was. The next slide shows the original Methodist Episcopal Church built in 1876. And I fell down off these steps one time and bumped my head. I still got a little scar up here. You want to see it? It was all icy. One of the things we did when we were kids, because I lived on South Avenue, all the snow would come down here, and there was a big, big pile of snow. And so we had King of the Ash Pile, and we'd push each other down off the top. And the guy was the king, was the guy who could stay there the longest. Because, again, this huge pile of snow would pile up there every winter. Okay, enough reminiscing. Okay, St. Luke's Episcopal Church, a wooden church isn't there anymore. This is where our fire department is today on East Church Street. But they had a lawn carnival for 2 days in July with music by the Boy Scout Band. How about that? And not only that, but admission was free. Everybody was invited. Games and refreshments. You can't beat that. Now, that building, of course, is gone today. Okay, next. Casa Larga. We mustn't forget that. Did you know the name of the gentleman who started that? His name begins with a C. Let's take a look at it. There it is. Andrew Carlo Turlo. Mr. What? Mr. C, of course. And there they are. There's a young boy, but they're famous for their winter grapes that are frozen, ice-wined. Okay, go ahead. And you can see some of the promotion. You know why they're all smiling? Because they've had enough of that. Right? Okay, let's take a look at this. Candy, confections, cake, ice cream cones. Gee, that's funny. It all begins with C. Let's see what else there was. Way back in 1889, there's a gentleman named Alfred Murdoff, and he had a confectionery of all kinds right here in good old Fairport. And there it is. His confectionery works. And here is a billhead from him. He sold something for $8.21. And when it was all finished, look at what he did. He said, "Thanks," and underlined it. That was very nice of him. He must have been a nice guy. Well, let's see if there's more confectionery things around here. Oh, yeah, there's one. The Sugar Bowl. Homemade ice cream. 35 cents a quart, 20 cents a pint, sold in pails and bricks. How about that? Wow. And, of course, this is an ad out of the 1940s for Easter ice cream. Now, the first gentleman to run this plant, we'll get the next slide, was named George Varlin. Okay, homemade candies, ice cream sodas, and so on. Then another gentleman took over, and his name had a C in it. Of course it did. Okay, so the next slide has good old McChrystal. Some of you may remember that. So when you bought the ice cream, it came in, this is the packaging for the original ice cream. 50 cents it would cost. Not too bad. And it came in different flavors. Chocolate chip, cherry, coconut, cotton candy, to say nothing of caramel. Okay. It's a healthy habit. Eat ice cream every day. Okay, let's move on. Cinema. Now, I'm going to brag a little bit. We had 3 cinemas. One was called The Bijou Dream. That's my favorite one. It's my father's. And then there was one before that time, and then there was another one that the Shine brothers had put up called The Temple. Well, let's take a look. Okay. One time there was a place called Shaw Hall. My grandfather bought it. He took a gentleman named Fitch, who was an architect. This is his original architects, redesigned the whole facade of the old Shaw Hall. My mother sold tickets here. The theater was upstairs, as it says so right here. Hollis Schilling, Charles Eldridge, so on. Going to wait patrons come down the front stairs. But there was also an escape route down the back stairs as well. It was good until the 1930s. And the ads for them, this is 1906. Okay, the next ad. Oh, by the way, I wasn't born yet. Okay, it was called the Rivoli first, and then the Bijou Dream. And you see that the Bijou Dream, the one my father was running, was a house of refinement. Not only that, but it presents the world's greatest moving pictures interspersed with colored slides, beautiful illustrated songs. And you had a big sing-along. I bet you never went to I'll bet you never did that. And you know what? I really feel sorry. None of the kids that I know have ever been to a Saturday afternoon matinee. Some of you in the audience have, but a Saturday matinee it kept me out. You don't know the trouble I didn't get into because I went to that. Okay, program change each day. Admission, 5 cents. Wow. Yes?
What street was that at?
On West Avenue. And as a matter of fact, I think that's about where the parking garage is next to the library, or right in that area. Okay, next. Here it is, the Temple Theater, early on. If you look down here, you see that on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, you could get free plateau night wear. But on Thursdays and Fridays, you could get free bake serve wear. Good old bake serve wear. In April 1933. But that was during the Depression, and that was a good deal. You went to the movies, you got to take home a plate. Now, I recall people telling me about how they would forget they had a plate in their lap in the middle of the night, crash. Okay, so this is the Temple Theater. My father said, "Oh, he's coming in with sound? Oh, that'll never go." Boy, was he wrong. And then he went into like his grandfather. My grandfather used to run a grocery store here in Fairport some years ago. I got pictures of it. But he went into the grocery business too. Okay, next slide. Yes. The Green Lantern is right here. Yep. Oh yeah, 1933. Look at that. $375. Oh yeah, and Mr. Dibble. Did you ever go into Dibble's garage? I don't know how he even got around. There was so much junk in there. Okay, lost and found. Well, never mind. Okay, corrugated cardboard cartons. More C's. Go ahead. Let's see. Oh yeah, here we go. HP 9. It says noon, but it's really 9, like the German, Deutsch, fine. Corrugated and set up boxes. Michael Hanna, president. And here, of course, is the box factory, as you can see here. Charming 180-year-old historic buildings, beautifully refurbished offices, gazebo, picnic tables, restaurant, moderate, ample parking, moderate rents. And it's still, that is a really nice place. And there are still people who go outside, out here, and when summertime and eat on the little veranda they have next to the river, or next to the canal. Okay, next slide.
Hey, Don?
Yes.
Is the town supervisor of Perinton, Hannah, is that related to him?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Is his son? Is his son?
Yeah, I guess.
Nephew.
Nephew, okay.
Oh, nephew.
I think I'd like to point out something. We had a connection with Kodak. Notice this box for the Kodak company was made here by HP 9 here in Fairport. Fairport's cartons for Kodak. It should begin with a C, I think, but it doesn't. Okay, next slide. Oh, Cottage Hotel. Now, there's people in this wonderful conglomeration of people out here, with a C, conglomeration, that may have forgotten about this. But this was a place that was on John Street. You say, where was John Street? Well, you know it was changed to State Street because nobody wanted to go on John Street. And now what do they call it? Liftbridge Lane. Where did that come from? I don't know. I don't think anybody who lived in Fairport would call it Liftbridge Lane, but that's all right. So let's take a look. It was run by a very respectable gentleman, J.B. Smith, the proprietor, genial host, knows how to provide for the comfort and convenience of its guests, and it's located at the corner of Main and John Streets. First-class house in every respect, and the public will find accommodations that are equal to those that we had in a city hotel. Wow. And now, guess what? Many years later, they still were selling fine foods that cost less. Air-conditioned luncheon, noonday luncheons, 85 cents. Now, you know about takeout? Everybody knows about takeout. My brother-in-law would take a big kettle down on a Saturday night or Friday night to the Cottage Hotel, and they'd fill it with spaghetti. It was wonderful. And for a little more money, they'd throw in a couple meatballs. It was great. So they had takeout at that particular time. Do you remember that? Oh, you did? Okay, there's one person who remembers it. That's 2 points. Okay, so here it is, fish fry every Friday, complete line of seafood, and so on. But I had to put the Cottage Hotel in there. And this, of course, is what it looked like before. They had a fire and it burned and they tore it down. And now it's a vacant lot. But something else is going up there. Yes?
The Cottage Hotel says it's air conditioned. Does that mean they just open the windows?
What? Did you bring her?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, probably. Okay, all right. Oh, but look at electric lights. Oh, come on, what more do you want? Probably has running water, too. Okay, next. Okay, the Peter Cox Shoe Factory. There was a strike in Rochester. The company was there, and Mr. Peter Cox got very agitated and moved this whole plant out here to where we had a pulley company. And there was a pulley company, and that was a vacated building, and that's where he moved in. This is long before sanitary can, okay? So let's see what it looked like. Aha! Somebody wrote a nice book, as you can see, Images of America. And what do they do on the cover? They put down the Peter Cox Shoe Manufacturing Plant. I thought that was very nice because I could use that slide. And some advertising that went along with that. Okay, there were women's shoes, almost all women's shoes. Might have been some kids' shoes too. I have no idea why the women at the turn of the century had pointed toes. I could never figure that out. But you see what the shoes look like. Peter Cox and Brothers, fine shoes. I guess they might have had shoes and some things for little children too. But in Rochester, mostly the shoes that were made were women's shoes. Very few men's shoes were made here in Rochester until Mr. De Pasquale came along. You maybe remember that. Okay, next slide. Crystal Rock Mineral Water. I could use some of that right now. Okay, let's take a look. Here it is, natural mineral water, Petty Spring, Fairport, New York. Aids digestion, relieves headaches, regulates the bowels. It's really good stuff. A sovereign table water, whatever that means. I'm not sure if it was sovereign, but that's what it says. Okay, so let's take a look. Here is the Baptist minister, the Reverend Dr. John Petty. Gentlemen, and over here is our entrepreneur. That should say Parse. Let me see if I can fix that. I can't fix it. It's supposed to say Parse. Oh, I made a mistake. Anyway, there's Walter Parse. Mr. Parse becomes interested in the Petty Springs, and the manner in which he developed and handled it was characteristic of his energy. He then pushed it, his big advertising, and made Fairport familiar throughout the source. So he did it with a little wagon. Let's see what the wagon looked like. There it is. Crystal Rock Mineral Water wagon. Wow. And this is now part, I think, of the cemetery out there. Yes, but I think there's some houses built on it, and there's more. Okay, so here it is. It was called the King of Table Waters. Now, why? This is what you use it for. Chronic inflammation, urinary disease, catarrh of the bladder. You don't want that. Diabetes, Bright's disease, liver complaint, constipation, complexions, unsightly blotches and shallow skin colors, dyspepsia, female computes, dropsy, indigestion, rheumatism, salt rheum, whatever that is, sciatica, chronic diarrhea. Oh, there's another one you don't want. Blood poisoning, nervous prostration, and guess what? Sluggish transpiration and mind exhaustion by the depredation of disease and excitement. Whoa. Ingredients, sodium, magnesium, chlorides, calcium chlorides. If this isn't going to kill you, it's going to kill you. Great stuff. Okay, next. More of Fairport's. 7 Cs. Oh yeah, it's time. Here it is. Fairport metalsmiths. I don't know if they're still in town or not, but they worked on some of the most remarkable antiques and brought them back to life. It was just phenomenal work that this gentleman can do. Damage repair, restoration, soldering, polishing. He just does a marvelous, marvelous work, like this tea set that you see here. It's right here in Turk Hill Park. There's a new bakery down there today now. Okay, next slide. Oh, don't forget this one. Country Max, with a C, celebrated 34 years of service, Fairport. Oh yeah, but it's got to be Country Max. Okay, and, well, somebody there. And that's 7 or more of Fairport's 7 Cs. I thank you very much.